Welcome back to the Black Squadron podcast, the weekly episode recap and discussion for the Acolyte. This is something new we're trying out, so hopefully you all like it and listen. But I'm your host, BP, and joining me always are Darth Mari and Todd.
What's up?
It's Acolyte season. This is like the one thing, Mario, I feel like you've been counting down like the milliseconds until this series came out.
So I really thought that that the episodes were gonna go live at 7:00, and I like ran upstairs, took a shower real quick, came downstairs, like got settled in my basement, and turned the TV on, and it was like trailer, and I was like, "What? No, I have to wait even longer."
That's actually the series is just the trailer on repeat for like 40 minutes every single week.
I was so upset.
Go ahead, Todd.
I was gonna say I feel like it's been an eternity since this like was first announced, and now we're finally. It's been like what, almost 4 years at this point.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, that's nuts. 4 years. But I was so excited to see it, as we all were, and then Todd and I trekked to Tyson's, Virginia, to watch it a night early in a theater with a bunch of other like-minded folks, and we had a blast. It was a great time.
I do slightly regret not going.
We had great seats. We got really lucky. We got dead center, high up. It was in a Dolby theater, which was incredible. They even gave us free popcorn, drinks, and a poster. It was just like a complete treat.
Dang. Okay.
I went for the Acolyte, stayed for the free poster.
Okay, now I really regret not going.
I will say the fact that they put us in a Dolby theater rather than like one of the smaller side theaters that I feel like a lot of these early screenings get sent to, you could feel everything because of the sound in the theater. So like we'll talk about some of these moments when we get into the episodes, but like there were moments where you could the sound would be shaking and you would like feel it in your seat and you're like, oh, this is it. I'm a Star Wars.
And once Todd plugged my reclining seat back in for me, I had a great time too.
That's a whole other story that we can get into another time.
All right. Well, the Acolyte is finally here, and we're breaking down the first 2 episodes. So let's hop right into episode 1.
All right. So episode 1 is titled Lost and Found, or Lost/Found, however you want to break it up. It's directed by Leslie Headland. So we talked about briefly when we first started the show how excited we all were. This series was beyond my wildest expectations for how much I enjoyed it. I was excited for it, but man, it is incredible. BP, what were your first thoughts watching this episode?
I've lost all track or all sense of time when the episode started. I was so like, it drew me in immediately. Like from the second it started with that classic light blue text over the stars. Like as soon as I saw it, I just forgot we were watching a TV show and that it wasn't a movie. We were about to sit there for the next 2 hours. But I mean, overall, just like overall picture, I'm in love. I'm in absolute love with this show. And it's particularly episode 1 was great. We got to meet a lot of characters, and we'll get into it here shortly. But the very beginning of it just set the tone.
Mario, what about you? I know you got to see it in a little bit of a different environment than me and BP did for the first viewing. So what was your first initial reaction to the series?
I mean, I was bundled up on my couch, like super comfy couch, and my big ass heavy blanket with the fireplace going. Like I had the whole vibes going, and it really helped like just solidify my comfortability for watching this particular episode, because I have been waiting so long, and it set the mood, and it just same exact thing with the blue text. I couldn't believe they were blue texting me. I was like, yes! I took a picture of it, like and then the rest of the episode just kept going, and like I was on the edge of my seat most of the time.
I feel like Star Wars fans' attachment to that like opening crawl-ish is so strong. Like even if it's not a traditional crawl, because this one obviously is like it was more like was it Rogue One or one of them that had like the slow like just text or Solo is the one I'm thinking of that had like this text across the screen in the very beginning. So not your traditional big yellow crawl, but seeing that crawl, man, it gets everything going, and then you cut right into sort of a cold open with May on Ueda, walking through this kind of outposty looking planet. You get Master Indara in this noodle shop, which love the noodle shop. Also love that like Star Wars is promoting like all these noodle based recipes now.
Yeah.
Are they? Oh my god, that's
socials.
amazing.
So I was like, I know 100% what I'm making before episode 3. But you have our first introduction to Jedi Master Indara, which Carrie-Anne Moss, Trinity, lot of hype, a lot of excitement for this character and this actress being in the series. We get this really cool martial arts style fight between her and May, and then we get Jedi Master Indara's death, which also, spoiler alert if you're listening to this,
right? Probably should
right
preface
into
this
it.
entire episode like spoiler alert.
We get Jedi Master Indara's death like almost immediately, and she's just her presence when we first meet Jedi Master Indara is this super powerful, like very composed Jedi Master, and just gets absolutely waxed by May, who's this kind of up and coming acolyte, not super, like obviously has some training, but not clearly what you would expect it for someone to take down a Jedi Master. So what, BP, was your kind of thoughts seeing? I know we were both sitting next to each other. So what was your thoughts when you saw that Jedi Master Indara immediately got killed in the first like 5 minutes?
I didn't expect it to happen so quickly, but I thought she might come to I definitely thought she would die in the series, but I didn't think it would be like from Jump Street. I said in our speculation episode that she's just Carrie-Anne Moss, she's she's gigantic. That's all I see, and it was all I could see was just Carrie-Anne Moss. But she was awesome in her brief time. Like, you believe she was this Jedi. She did let her mates at that pub get rocked before she decided to start fighting May. Like all of them got just pummeled, and then she's like, "All right, that's enough." But she was great. Like, the fight scene was very well done. Her lightsaber, the green lightsaber, looked really cool with her. And then she went out. I mean, she went out like a Jedi, right? She saved innocent people, and then just took a dagger to the heart. Dagger.
I will say, I think Qui-Gon would have been a little upset if Indara had also survived that wound. It's like another one that's just standing in the background, like, oh, come on. I know it's early, but Mara, what did you think when you were watching this whole fight scene kind of play out?
I mean, we had already seen most of the fight scene at the end of the Phantom Menace. And then like once she died, I was thinking to myself 2 things. BP must be thrilled he doesn't have to see Trinity for the rest of this. But number 2 was it makes sense that she's dying now, because after all of the footage that we have seen from the trailers and whatnot, like really this is the only place we see a lot of her is this one tavern. So I was like, this kind of sucks. But okay, like it has to have a launch off point somewhere, and why not with Carrie-Anne Moss? So
yeah. I mean, it really brought some weight to May's story, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also I feel like a lot of what we get when we get to the prequel trilogy is the Jedi are kind of like, even Anakin says it, like, no one can kill a Jedi. So we're immediately getting Jedis being murdered, which we knew that was going to happen. That was the whole premise of the series when that was teased. But I think having it that sudden and that quick into the series really adds a lot of weight to, hey, this is something that the Jedi need to take seriously, because if not, it's going to get out of control, and there's going to be some problems that they're going to be dealing with.
They even like talk about how they need to keep it quiet.
Yeah. Well, we'll get right into, so Coruscant, we get to see Jedi Master Soul, which fantastic. Love Soul. Think he's a great character already.
I love that scene. That intro scene with him is beautiful.
So well done. Coruscant looks gorgeous. I know, Mari, when you were talking during our podcast episode about being excited about seeing sort of this glorious version of Coruscant in the Jedi Temple, was that everything you kind of had hoped for?
I thought it would be like a little bit more prominent, but it still was incredible to witness. Like, you see an underside of Coruscant that we've never seen before, because they've peeled back that layer since it's not built up yet. Yeah.
Real excited to, hopefully we get more Coruscant. I think we'll talk about when we get into episode 2, but I think we might be going back to Coruscant at some point. So Still might get a little bit more of Coruscant for you. We get a little bit look at Osha, which I think the fact that Osha's character is named Osha and she was working as a mechanic is kind of funny. Like the person that's working in a dangerous job is named after government agency.
Occupational Safety and Health Association or whatever.
Exactly. I was like, that's pretty funny. But that was cool. Seeing the Trade Federation, I think, was really cool. I love that. I'm pretty sure those were practical effects. Like, those looked like actual animatronic. Yeah, I would definitely think that those were animatronic, kind of sculpted faces.
Yeah.
So that was obviously cool. We get the prison break scene. BP, what did you think of the prison break? I thought it was wild.
It was really, really cool to see some droid hacking in Star Wars. Because that's what happened, right? He literally hacked the entire system, and the pilots were chairs.
I loved that.
Genius. I will say, I just go back a little bit when Osha was outside of the ship and there was a fire in space. It was a little confusing. So I would like to know how that happened, because fire in space.
Okay. I've seen this come up a few times. Look at the Super Star Destroyer, the Executor in Return of the Jedi.
I mean, it happens in Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I don't know.
Listen, we're in space. There's Jedi with laser swords.
Space fire.
It's fake and it's made up. But yeah, going back to the prison break, obviously seeing the droid hacking was really cool.
It was really cool. The aliens, the prisoners, I should say, the one that really was really cool. He had like the flap on his head when he was mad, but it ended up being like a tentacle.
Oh, like the shark dude?
Yeah.
I was like, why is it on his head?
But yeah, it was really neat how they did it. I'm curious if we ever see the alien or the symbiote or whatever it was in that guy's mouth making him docile. I wonder if we'll see that again, because it kind of just like escaped.
Oh, what was it reminded me of Borgullet from Rogue One. Yeah, like same kind of like just gross creature looking alien. So I'm really glad we got those back. Mara, what did you think of the prison break sequence?
I thought it was fun. It did show you how like everything we've seen in the trailers was so misleading, because we didn't realize like there was this other version of this one person. So you see how she's such a good person. It's like there's no way she could have killed Jedi. Yeah, she doesn't have that point of view. So like she's trying to help, and then like the whole crash, and is that planet, is that the one with the Spideys on it?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a different ice planet, which I was reading because StarWars.com put out like episode guides. They're doing it every week. And originally, like in early versions of story writing, that was going to be another sand planet. So I'm glad that they shifted from sand to, it's inevitable in Star Wars that we're going to get at least one sand planet, but I am glad that they did this more ice style planet than a sand planet, because I think people would have probably rolled their eyes to the back of their skull if we had gotten another sand planet that's a crash. Obviously at the end of the prison break sequence and kind of during this whole crash sequence, we get May having like not really a flashback. It's kind of like this like living between two different states of mind environment where she's kind of going through her past, Osha's going through her past and then sees her sister May, and that's when we finally get the introduction that there's twins.
Which Todd called it.
I don't want to brag. And we were looking at, me and BP were talking about this at the screening. But if you look at the title, the Acolyte, the O's, there's two of them, and they're like overlapping, and one's light and one's dark.
I love Star Wars.
It was helpful to see when it was like 30 feet wide. So
when the logo is the size of your entire body, you can really point out those things. But yeah, so obviously there's the twin dynamic. I'd be curious to see, because obviously in the sequel trilogy, we get the whole Force dyad between Rey and Ben Solo. I would be really curious to see if they explore the dyad relationship a little bit between Osha and May, because obviously like it seems like they have some sort of force connection or force bond with the way that they communicate with each other to a degree. We saw that a little bit, obviously, with this flashback sequence. And then also we see it a little bit in the second episode. So also a little bit interesting that we're doing the twins thing and kind of a different dynamic than Luke and Leia. So obviously Luke and Leia are the probably most well-known twins in Star Wars. You both have them on the light side. Now we're doing a little bit of light and dark, which I think is kind of getting into the expanded universe a little bit. I think Luke's kids in the he has twins in the expanded universe, and one of them ends up being a Sith, and the other one's good. So interesting to see that. What obviously, I kind of had a feeling that they were going to be siblings. BP, did you have any inclination that we were working with siblings or twins or anything like that?
I mean, when we noticed the O's in the logo, I was like, "There's a very good possibility that there's going to be twins." I'm curious if it's not like a diet thing, or it's not even like force related, like her vision. I wonder if it has anything to do with the witch element of the show that we haven't learned about yet, which could very possibly be. So I don't know what exactly, because we don't know anything about it yet, but that's a possibility.
Miss Mari, what did you think of the twins?
It's exciting for me. I'm a twin. So I always put like me and my sister in these shoes. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm May. She's Osha.
Yes, 150 million %. Yes.
But what, like, when you were making that argument in our last show, like talking about it, I was like, man, that actually does make a ton of sense. So when it happened, I was like, yeah, I'm glad they went this way. Yeah.
I think it's definitely interesting, like I was saying, that we have twins again, because obviously twins are such an iconic part of Star Wars. So I think re-exploring that maybe through a different lens is I think it'll be really fun. And obviously adds a whole different element to the series that they can really kind of go crazy with and do all kinds of fun stuff, especially once we get into the witches that you mentioned, BP, because I think there's a lot with them that we have, like, that's just a whole other layer that once they get introduced is just going to kind of blow the doors off the whole series and make everything go crazy. So a couple other things that I want to talk about before we kind of wrap up this episode is a lot of the relationships that we've seen so far. So obviously we have the relationship between Sol and Osha, and then we have the dynamic between Jecki, Yord, Osha, and Sol. So first off, I'm Team Yord. I'm part of the Yord Horde or whatever. I'm all about Yord and his rule following, and
I want to punch him so bad.
His
in the face.
His ability to immediately pull out a lightsaber, which I love how in the beginning May is talking to Indara and is like, a Jedi only pulls out a lightsaber if they intend to kill. Meanwhile, Yord's like running around using his lightsaber as a flashlight. I was like, that's good. I'm glad. He's just a giant himbo. We're here for this.
That just proves the point of green and blue are for like the rule followers, and then yellow is for the more forward thinking. I should say. But no, Yord was great. I know there was some controversy going into it from some stuff in an interview that was silly, but he was great on screen. He said the thing. He did I got a bad feeling about this, so that was exciting. Jecki might end up being my favorite character. She felt like a perfect blend of Phantom Menace Obi-Wan and younger Ahsoka. Just like that's the vibes I got from her. So I suspect we're gonna get more quips from her moving forward.
Jecki was pretty. I was excited for Jecki, but again, I feel like everything in this episode, like the excitement was here, and what they gave us was like way up here. Mm-hmm. So really, really looking forward to it. The last thing that I kind of want to talk about is the very ending of the episode, which I feel like how they end some of these episodes, it's going to feel a little bit better when we can binge a lot of it, because it's very like cut. Abrupt. All right, next abrupt next episode. But obviously we get kind of the voiceover that we got in one of the trailers talking about the dream and the Acolyte kills the dream and all that. The speech from this unknown Sith leader. We're calling him Darth Joker until we get an actual name. It's called the Master. What did you guys think of the speech and sort of just the presence of this Sith leader?
Yeah, the Acolyte kills a dream line all time. Play that on loop. I'm fine with it. We got like 30 seconds of that character, and that 30 seconds was intriguing. So enjoyed it.
Darth Maury. What do you
As
think
soon
of
as
Darth
I
Joker?
as soon as I saw May like walking through like along the rocks, and you can hear him talking, I sat up and I was like, "Here he comes! Let's go!" I was so ready for it, and yeah, the whole speech and everything, top tier.
Nice. So if you were, we'll start with you, BP. If you were to rate this 1 to 10, 1, you didn't like it at all, 10, best Star Wars ever, where would you kind of put this first intro to the series, this first episode?
Oh boy. So what do I like most about Star Wars? And that's a credible Star Warsy set design, Star Warsy costumes, and a good story. This had all three of those things. So this episode was a 10 out of 10 for me, for my needs of Star Wars. So 10 out of 10 for me.
Ooh, bold, coming right out the gate with a 10. Mara, what about you? What did you?
Mine was a 10. I've so anxiously waited for this so long, and they gave me so much of what I was looking forward to. There were like a couple things where I was like, but I mean, again, I was on the edge of my seat. I was moving, like I was so hyped that it was hard for me to really sit still because of how excited I was, and every scene change brought me to another thing that I love about Star Wars. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me.
Nice. I think I'll be the one that stands out. I think if I was giving it a score, probably somewhere around an 8 out of 10, which I really enjoyed it. I really liked a lot of it. Some of the pacing at times kind of, that I would say maybe is my only kind of hesitation with it. Sometimes things felt a little long, but that's because obviously it's the first episode. There's a lot of building and whatnot. So 8, but great start to the series. We're gonna roll right into episode 2. So episode 2 is Revenge/Justice, which I think both of these have kind of like playing on the whole twin dynamic. Obviously, you have Lost and Found, Revenge, Justice, so kind of the two sides of that coin.
I wonder if all the episodes will follow that, the episode titles.
I would assume if they're really going to lean into this twin thing hard. Yeah. But Revenge/Justice, directed by Leslie Headland again. She took the first two. Initial thoughts, BP, on this episode. So this is obviously a little bit of a darker, a little bit of a grittier planet, I feel like, than we saw in the first one. What were your thoughts on this episode?
I think I learned how poor security is at Jedi temples. Is probably my first thought.
Probably because they think nobody can touch them.
Yeah, I mean,
who would do that? We're Jedi. Sorry, guys. I'm like a broken record here with the Jedi hate.
Do you like the Jedi by chance, Mari?
I don't know why the first thing.
This episode was the first time I wore a piece of costume. I was like, oh god, that looks awful. Which was the Jedi Master, was it Tormund?
Yeah, his Torben.
Torben. His beard was horrendous.
Oh, you don't like the beard?
That fake beard looks so bad.
Maybe that's his real beard.
That contact looked really bad too.
His contact looked really bad too. But it was interesting. I can't wait to find out what they did on that planet to make him take that vow for 10 years, then to wake up and then just willingly unalive himself. Like, what did they do?
Well, I like it because obviously they mention it, but I think BP, you're the big comic guy, so I think the bearish vow was first mentioned in the Vader comics back in like 2017.
I want to say that was even in EU.
Was it?
I want to say it was.
I was going to say, I know for like in canon, it first showed up in the Vader series, and then it was mentioned in a couple of the High Republic, I think, comics as well. But
I did want to mention the High Republic. Did you know? Oh, I don't know if you guys even knew this, but in the High Republic, a lot of the Jedi have certain color girth belts underneath their actual belts, like green, yellow, purple, whatnot. And they brought that into the show too, and that also has to do with how they hear, quote unquote, or see the Force, because I don't know if we'll get into it in the show, but in the High Republic comics, they talk about how the Force talks to them. Like some hear it as music, so they can hear it coming as music, or they hear it as like an ocean wave or something like that. So it's really interesting. I just want to know so bad how we got from like the High Republic level to what we knew before Jedi ended, because it seems like they lost so much of their power or their like whimsy. I don't know.
Like the
Yeah, they just
traditions and aspects of it. Well, I will say, like, obviously you're talking about how they hear the Force, and that going back to the first episode, you had the opening scene with Jedi Master Soul, where he's, the Padawans are talking about the Force and what do they see, and one of them says fire, and so I think that's kind of how it's going to be subtle ways that they bring it in, but it's going to be moments like that where it's just little tidbits that if you've read the High Republic stuff, you're like, oh, there it is, there, the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Maury, what were your first thoughts for episode 2?
This one was even though it wasn't the intro necessarily to the series, it's episode 2. This one I held in higher regard because of the dark grittiness and the moida, and I'm saying moida, yes, and all that like darkness, and seeing the grittier side of really getting under. I'm having such a hard time putting it into words. You can see how the evil can grow because they really are so clueless. They're prideful. They think that they're untouchable, and then suddenly it's like, oh, nope.
Wait
and
a
this
second,
one really, and this one really shows how just these 2-3 people have managed to kill 2 masters at this point. So
one without a fight.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, but yeah, I loved this episode even more than the first one. It's like 11 out of 10 for me. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead to that grade.
we're gonna make a whole new Acolyte scale for you, Mari. It's just gonna keep getting more and more.
Exactly.
You started at 10, so now you're just gonna go up. So a couple things from this episode. Obviously, we got Olega. We're talking about that with the Jedi Temple. I'm really excited. Obviously, one thing we were talking about in our kind of speculation episode we did for the pod was I wanted to see more Jedi temples. I wanted to see ancient ruins, things like that. So seeing another Jedi temple was really cool for me because it shows just how much expansion the Jedi Order has been doing during this High Republic era. Like they're way off building temples on whole other planets.
The Outer Rim.
The Outer Rim. Olega was really cool, kind of like this market, like vibrant, colorful area, but also lots of darkness and grittiness in the planet. We got Jedi Master Torben, his vow of silence, the bearish vow, which I thought was really interesting. And then this is what I really want to get into because I think we could have some fun with this. But we got introduced to Chimere, who we butchered that name horrendously.
Yeah, we did.
Pod. We were completely wrong. We have Chimere. His relationship with May is, I think, an interesting dynamic. I feel like there's more to this character than we're getting. BP, what were your thoughts about our first introduction to Chimere and sort of his relationship with May?
For the first full minute, I thought it was Ezra Miller. Because they didn't he was like moving around a lot and the hair was in his face. I was like, did they really?
Wait a minute.
But no, I think you're right, and it's not even based off what we saw on the show. It's based off a toy because they made a Funko Pop of him in line 1. They don't generally do nobodies or minor characters in first line for a new release. So if I had to bet money that Chimere's trouble.
Mari,
I was kind of thinking like maybe he's Smiley, maybe he's Darth Joker. Like there are layers there that I cannot wait to have unraveled for us. I'm super excited to one of the people I met at New York Comic Con messaged me and was like, who was your favorite character? And I was like, it's still too early for me to really nail that down, but like Chimere was way high up there.
Be funny if it's Darth Chimere.
I have a feeling I have a feeling, and we see this obviously in the Phantom Menace with Palpatine, Darth Sidious, like him playing those two roles. I almost wonder if this is going to be like an early version of that. Obviously, he's not Palpatine. Like we're a little too early in the timeline for Palpatine. I'm pretty sure.
We're not. We're not.
I think we're
I did
just
the math earlier. I have really bad news.
I want to say we're just a smidge because Palpatine's like in his 60s when he takes over as the Emperor, and this is 100 years before.
It's not 100 years before. If you read the scroll,
I know what you're saying. It says 100 years before the
years.
Empire, but everything that Star Wars keeps promoting keeps saying 100 years before the Phantom Menace. So there's either a mismatch somewhere. We can go back and forth on it, but it depends on which. If they go with 100 years before the Empire, yeah, Palpatine's potentially around. But if they're going 100 years before the Phantom Menace, then I think it's just a bit too early for Palpatine.
Well, we can roll out Plagueis because almost
listen, maybe he's a shapeshifter. Maybe we'll get Tall Boy Plagueis eventually. But I do think that we could see something kind of like what Palpatine ended up doing, where you have Chimere playing this smuggler, dealer, supplier as he will to May, when really he's the one that's pulling the strings. I mean, he even says part of the Sith code to May.
That's
just casually drop it. Yeah, just casually drop it.
Casually, yeah.
So he's like, "Oh yeah, peace is a lie," and May's like, "Oh well, okay, I guess you're right."
All right, yeah, all right.
He knows a lot about how these kills have to be done, but not, don't tell the master, or we won't let him know, or he'll be so happy. And then he immediately sniffs out that Osha is not May when she's going undercover, and it's like, all right, hold on, there's a little something to this guy. The other thing too that they talk about is that May has to kill one of the 4 targets, that the 4 Jedi Masters that she's been assigned to take out, and all the ones that were assigned to her planet of Brendok, without a weapon. So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic that plays out, is this constant. I feel like she's going to like get down to 1. It's going to be like Jedi Master Soul, and then she's going to have only one more chance to take out one of them without a weapon.
Well, when she came back from killing Torben, he said, "You did it without a weapon." So I think that passed that test.
Maybe.
Because she didn't do it. He did it.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I think she passed that test.
If he's Darth Smiley, Darth Joker, then absolutely he's actually just like, oh yeah, you're good. Like, yeah, you checked your box, you're good to go.
You woke that man up and he drank that poison willingly? Yeah, you're good.
I cannot wait to see the fight between Kalneka and May.
So I know, BP, you mentioned it, but what do you think was so bad that they did that Torben willingly took that poison?
My only guess is, because they mentioned there was a fire, right? Like the whole village, is that they had maybe there was a chance, or a perceived chance, that they could have used the Force to save people, a certain group of people, and chose to get out with what they had. Maybe that's like only thing I can think of, because there's obviously some resentment there that Osha got out perfectly fine and everyone else, quote unquote, died.
Well, May thought Osha died.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I cannot wait, because they did something awful apparently.
Yeah.
One thing that I went to, and it's kind of calling back to the sequel trilogy, is Luke Skywalker feeling the darkness in Ben Solo. Like, I almost wonder if one of the 4 Jedi that was stationed on Brendok felt this just unusual amount of dark side energy, this cloud of evil coming from either one or both of the sisters. Obviously, if they are that dyad, maybe there's something in some Jedi prophecy that we haven't seen yet that scared them, that spooked them, and they started this fire to, snuff it out. They kind of gave in. They had a moment, just like Luke did, where they gave into that fear for like a fleeting second, and then they're like, "Oh no, what did we do?" So they tried to save one of them, and then that's kind of the catalyst and they have to live with that. And obviously, that's why Torben took the vow of silence, and some of the other ones. Kelnaka's exiled himself.
And Chimera knew exactly where he was. Chimera seems to know where everyone is. And we don't know where he came from. Maybe he was a kid too with them, and he was the darkness they felt and destroyed a village.
Yeah.
See, we'll just have to find out.
So
This,
excited.
this is the one downside to these weekly releases is I want to know more. Like me and BP were sitting at the theater and we're like, I want more. I need
Yeah.
more.
Episode 2 ended abruptly.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way is this over.
When the end scroll happened in episode 1, I was like, that's it? Yeah. And then I was like, with 2.
I need it. So last couple of things with this episode, we obviously have the ambush with Chimere, which I thought was hilarious how quickly he's like, hold on now, wait a second. I don't know what, listen, here's the whole plan. Here's where you're going to find her. Please let me go.
Betrayal.
Immediately to jail. So that was pretty funny to see. And just I think his whole character is just going to be really funny to watch play out because like we were talking about, there's potentially more to him, or again, like everything else with Star Wars, our theory is just garbage. And they're going to just make us look silly. It's going to be like Marok all over again, where it's like, oh, this is actually Ezra and he's been tricked into being the dark side. No, it's just a puff of smoke. So maybe all our theories will go up in smoke again. So we get the ambush of Chimere. Obviously, we talked about a little bit May or Osha posing as May and Chimere sniffing that out. And then the big scene from this episode, May fighting Jedi Master Soul. BP, what did you think of this fight?
Amazing choreography. I loved it. I loved that she was going balls out and he was standing there and just deflecting. I also can't go this whole time without mentioning how absolutely sick the Jedi's forearm and hand armor is. That's so dope. I love that a lot, and I think that we should keep that going moving forward. But yeah, I love that he was so hesitant to strike her because they did something, man. Something ain't right.
Mari, what did you think of the fight?
I loved it. Actually, it just kind of made me recall what Indara says to her. She goes, "You." It makes you wonder, did she realize that that's May? Sorry, this just took me back to that.
No, I think she thought it was Osha.
Yeah, maybe, but it could have. I mean, she looked so surprised when
Osha left like Ahsoka did, right? The order,
right? So, but like not necessarily on bad terms. It was like her decision.
Yeah,
for her.
I'd be surprised. Wouldn't you be surprised if a person left your office willingly, came back 8 years later to kick your ass?
Wait a minute.
Choo. No, but this fight scene, when the way that it ends is incredible, where she's like dirt and just poofs out of there. I was like, get it, girl, ninja dust.
And it wasn't like a little, like Saul was round,
coated.
It's like pocket sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I love, BB, you touched on it a little bit, but just the fight choreography, how epic these battles feel, even without lightsabers or anything crazy like that. Like just how they've done the fight choreography where if everything just feels epic. Like, I don't know if there's another word to really describe it, but the fights just seem like easy for the Jedi. Like May is fighting.
Yeah.
And then Saul's just like, oh, by the way, here's all your weapons that you had. Psych.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting seeing just how powerful these Jedi Masters are. Like obviously Indara lost and Torben took himself out, but seeing just how powerful in the Force that Jedi Master Saul is, I think is really, really, really cool. And I think it's going to get even more interesting as the series progresses.
I like the hand-to-hand combat in Star Wars. I don't think we've really gotten a lot of that, aside from maybe a couple clone punches. I would love to see May versus Phantom Menace Maul in a hand-to-hand combat. That would be epic, epic duel.
Sorry, I drew a little.
Yeah, I think I know what I wanted to say. So when we did our speculation episode, I said in the first teaser we got, the fight choreography looked a lot like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like it was kind of slow. That was not the case in the episodes. They definitely sped it up or removed some of that aspect of it. But I'd never once felt out of place, even though it was not lightsaber fighting. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
It felt right.
I was literally thinking like the hand to hand has been so good. I'm super stoked for the lightsaber battles to come. Imagine how good those are going to be.
Yeah, we have to assume that May's going to have to use the saber either against Cal Neca or at the very least Saul.
Yeah.
Like what that Cal Neca thing has me so flummoxed because it's a Wookiee. You're gonna fist fight a Wookiee, right?
You could. You might not have success with it though.
Right. You can try.
I wouldn't start there.
I will say, the more we've watched this series, like the first 2 episodes, the more that Frozen meets Kill Bill description for the series really rings true, because Frozen obviously is about sisters and Kill Bill is Kill Bill. So
who is Lord Weaselton?
Westleton.
Oh my god. Westleton.
You just see a dude off in the corner screaming Westleton at some point. It's like, oh, there's Frozen.
It's Alan Tudyk again.
And then we talked about it, but the episode ends with Kel Neca on Kofar, which I love that he's pretty much like a angry old man yelling like "Get off my lawn" to anybody near him.
Do you remember what I said to you when we were leaving the theater about Kel Neca?
No. Oh yeah.
Okay. So, up until this point, we had seen him only in Jedi robes, but in the episode, he's not wearing any clothes. Did we see a naked ass Wookiee?
That's what I was wondering. When I saw it, I was like, that seems wrong. But then like thinking it back to like Chewbacca and like the other Wookiees we've seen, like that's not really that different.
Kel Neca was a civilized Wookiee.
Yeah.
So I thought episode 2 was a fantastic episode. BP, 1 to 10, what would you give this episode?
I'm gonna give this one 8.
Less than the first.
Because there's one scene that I just can't get out of my head, and I don't like it at all. So when Meg finally gets back to Chimera and they're trying to get out of the city, and they're like, there's like a Padawan watching them like down an alleyway, and then a girl walks up to him, and the Padawan's like, "Oh, later," and then they just like walk away, and then you hear this Padawan go, "Wait, where are they?" Dumb. 8 out of 10. Everything else was fantastic. That was so dumb.
All it takes is one scene to knock it down for you.
Yeah.
11. Give me all the daddy goodness.
I was gonna say this one definitely, of the 2, I like this one more. Maybe it's just because we got little darker vibes going on, a little more Sithy goodness.
Yes.
So I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. I thought it was great. I thought both episodes though did a fantastic job of kicking off the series, planting a lot of seeds, introducing all the characters, starting to form some of those relationships we'll see. BP, Mari, either of you, any last thoughts on the first 2 episodes and maybe what you kind of hope to see moving forward in this series now that we're 2 episodes in?
So far everything I wanted has happened. I can't stress enough how much the set design, the droids design. We didn't even talk about Pip this entire time.
Oh yeah.
Master Saul like immediately felt it was new, but felt so right. Like it felt like I've known him for my entirety of Star Wars. So that was great to just like. I don't think any character really stood out negatively, like a main character, aside from like, wow, this is Star Wars. I don't know if I'm making that clear, like what I'm trying to say, but everything just felt right, and I'm really excited about. I was super into the story. Couldn't believe it was ending. I love the number of, I don't know what it's called. I'm not a filmmaker, but the circle dissolves.
Oh, the transitions.
Yeah, so we did a lot of those in like the original trilogy, but not as many in this episode alone. But it was a pretty cool callback to just like vintage Star Wars.
Mari?
I mean, it just left me wanting so much more. It wasn't enough. I needed each episode to be full-length movies. I can't stand Yord. but I'm super excited to see the progression for him. Like, I'm hoping that he kind of like turns around somewhere for me. But I mean, overall, I'm so excited to keep seeing how this evolves and yeah, where it goes.
I'm gonna get you on the Yord Horde before this season's over.
I don't.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, I guess that is going to do it for our discussion for the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. We had a ton of fun talking about this. I think we are all in love with the show so far. But we'd love to hear your thoughts. We're actually going to put this episode on YouTube as well. So if you're watching this, make sure you like it, subscribe it, and in comments below, tell us what you think of The Acolyte. Also, follow us on all the social media platforms. Join our Discord. Our Discord community has been a lot of fun. That's where we moved our cargo hold segment to for the most part. We're showing toys daily. We're talking Star Wars, and we're talking a ton about Star Wars Hunters because it's a blast to play. Todd's playing right now. You just can't see it.
It's off screen the whole time.
And he doesn't even have to look at it now. He's just
It's muscle memory.
win.
All right. And you can find me on every platform, BP the Maker. Todd, where can I find you?
You can find me on every platform as well at this point. Todd knows best, but it's the nose that in your face.
All right. And if you want to catch our regular show, it's bi-weekly, and you can find it on all podcasting platforms. Check it out on iTunes, recommended. And every other Wednesday, you can find our Acolyte coverage, on Thursdays. But until next time, remember, the Force will be with you always.